This is a scientific fact that the sun grew all things. It is thus the creator appointed by absolute nature to grow itself into universe order, by its nature called the nature of nature. The sun is our father, the earth is our mother, whose womb is called Lake Victoria in equatorial Africa today. There is no great mystery that lies behind the existence of a universe as religionists would have us believe. A universe is as simple and natural as a planet. There is no great mysterious being who created the universe and went off someplace never to be seen again. We have never been taught that just as all living beings have a nature of their own passed on to them by absolute nature itself has a nature which is called the nature of nature. The nature of nature is the energies of nature doing what comes natural. When one understands the nature of nature, the ignorance known as mystery is destroyed. The nature of nature is the motivator and activator in existence. The nature of nature causes the activities of the one supreme being, which is absolute nature, all space, all matter, and all time. The slave master has never taught his captives anything about the nature of nature, because it would destroy the master's deception called religion, and once the falsity known as religion is destroyed from the captive's mind, the oppressor knows that the slave would be from under his spell of dominance and damnation. It is the nature of nature to exist by opposites, positive and negative, male and female, life and death, summer and winter, order and disorder, etc. Parts of nature exist as universes while other parts exist as chaos. Then, the parts that existed as universes exist as chaos while the parts that existed as chaos exist as universes. In other words, order and disorder exist at the same time in nature but not in the same places. Then, order and disorder alternate back and forth by exchanging places via growth and decay. When the summer cycle comes to the chaotic parts, primeval chaos, of nature, universes sprout and grow like trees throughout existence that has been in disorder. When the winter cycle of existence comes to orderly parts, the universes, of nature, the universes crumble and return to primeval chaos while others in other places are beginning to grow. A universe is not something mechanically made. It is a growth in nature as natural as a plant. It is the nature of nature that starts a universe to grow, and the nature of nature starts a universe to crumble. Nature exists in circles and cycles of limited duration. It takes a universe 9 years to be born. To put it another way, the time it takes for 9 ether to fully form a universe is 9 years, and this time is a universe's gestation period. Why a universe sprouts and grows is because the summer of existence returns to that part of nature. Origin of a universe takes place this way. Imagine a very thick fog-like condition existing in very vast areas of space as a thorough mixture of gases, very fine soil, chemicals, and all other types of elements. This is primeval chaos. When the summer season returns to this area, like a seed planted but waiting for spring to arrive, the gases and chemicals and all active elements which had been floating aimlessly in space, begin to accumulate in a central point. These active elements float aimlessly because there is no gravitation at that time and there is no universal body anywhere near to attract or pull them. The many active elements, gases, chemicals, etc., of nature by the nature of nature continue to aggregate to a central point, and when some of every active element existing in nature has focused in the same place, a universe or seed is formed, and then a spontaneous fire begins in the egg or seed, and that egg is the beginning of one of many suns which are the original creator in the form of universal bodies. The African pygmy is the original creator in flesh and blood, and we bigger Ethiopians are the evolutionary descendants of those African pygmies. The forming of the universal eggs is the combination of all existing gases and chemicals, and this is 9 ether, the original grower and conscious gases. When a sun starts to grow, it sends out electrical waves in the form of ethereal lightning, and at the end of each lightning wave another 9 ether egg forms, which is the beginning of another sun. When the suns have grown big enough and strong enough, they put the rest of the universe in order by growing planets, satellites, etc. The suns grow by attracting more and more matter and changing the atomic count of that matter through the process of metamorphosis. The suns are plants with brain and blood, and the other universal bodies are planets, which mean smaller plants. All true stars, the true stars of the universe are the suns, do not have a solar system. Some suns are just stabilizers and light and life givers in the universe. But those like our sun in this part of the universe are growers and centers of solar systems. When a sun that is going to have a solar system is big enough and strong enough, it begins to put the matter in chaos surrounding it into order by forming a magnetic core, which is the center of a planet, and rolling that magnetic core against the matter of primeval chaos, which is not yet in order and surrounding the sun. A planet grows until all the matter in its immediate area has been formed into the orb. Then the power of the sun ignites the planet and releases its attraction on the planet, and the weight of the planet moves the orb away from the sun. The planet moves farther and farther away from the sun until it displaces its own weight in the atmosphere of the sun as an object as in water. An object will sink in water until it displaces its own weight in that water, then it stops and floats. When the planet displaces its own weight in the atmosphere as an object does in water, it is in orbit and then it floats around the sun, its grower and controller, indefinitely. When the sun is growing the planets, it uses all matter available, and of course that includes all gases, chemicals and elements in sight, but the compound called water is separated from the other elements, because the compound known as water lessens the burning ability of the other elements by weakening their potency. Moreover, water is necessary in the forming of the satellites and is needed in the forming of flesh and blood beings. When the planet orbits the sun and starts its eternal rotation around the nine ball, the planet is a burning ball, and that ball burns, and burns until the burning goes beneath the surface of the planet as a fire does in a burning coal. When the burning goes beneath the surface and the planet cools from its burning, the sun pushes the Earth's share of water into the orb's magnetic or gravitational field, and it begins to rain and rain and rain. As this water goes beneath the surface of the planet and reaches the gases and chemicals in the Earth which are still burning, pressure begins to build up and eventually, the results are a series of tremendous violent explosions which send parts of the Earth into orbit around the planet. Then the sun by the laws of nature draws these parts together and grows these parts together by rainwater and heat. However, those parts of Earth that did not have enough force behind them to go into space and become part of the moon, fell back to Earth and formed mountains and other high places. Yet, all mountains were not formed this way. Some mountains are the results of heat pressure pushing parts of the Earth upward but never becoming powerful enough for violent explosion. Of course, after those series of tremendous explosions, great craters and cracks were left in the Earth, and it is easy to see how they would become oceans, rivers, lakes, and streams, since the rains kept falling until those craters and crevices were filled enough with water. Now the stage was set and ready for other life. All ingredients needed for various types of life was given Mother Earth while she was growing in primeval chaos, and when the Earth caught fire and was going through a heat process, the rains came and eggs were formed in the waters of the Earth by the nature of nature through action of alpha bombardment, etc., which combined the formulas necessary for life. Vegetation came up first, for it was necessary for food and protection for the flesh and blood beings that followed. Next was the dwarf beings now called the African pygmies. These dwarf newborns were born from the source of the Nile River, meaning, the Nile River in Africa. The original atmosphere of this planet was very unlike we know it today. At that time the atmosphere was strong, dense with life gases, and hot all over the planet even at the poles. Orb Earth was the first mother of all living beings on this planet, and the sun was the first father of all in the form of life, 9 ether, or the form of death, 6 ether. Since there was no flesh and blood mothers to nurse the first flesh and blood beings on the planet, this means they had to be born strong enough to take care of themselves. There was neither poisonous vegetation nor animals and fowl of prey, therefore, our ancestors, the pygmies, had no danger to confront them, and anything they could eat or drink was suitable for food. The dwarf Ethiopians could not die because everything was living, the earth was living, the atmosphere was living, and the water was living. The enemy called death was not there. At the time of original creation, that is, original order, the atmosphere was electrified with 9 ether and was strong and mentally nursing. Now the atmosphere is dead and poisonous throughout the planet, and water and earth likewise. Poisonous vegetation and insects, animals and birds of prey were not born until 36 million years after original order, when evolution, death of the universe, became a reality. The egg formulas necessary for death were in the earth, but by the laws of nature, the nature of nature, they had to remain inactive until the winter season of existence. Summer of existence is life, and winter of existence, of course, is death. The death seed came up in the form of poisonous insects, poisonous animals, poisonous vegetation, animals of prey, birds of prey, insects of prey, vegetation of prey, and conscious gases of prey arrived in the form of 6 ether, Leviathan, the zodiac. All universes go through similar processes, and all suns, planets, satellites, etc., go through the same process of birth, growth, maturity, decline, and death in one form or another. When the sun died and started giving off 6 ether prominences which caused interference with the earth and moon in their courses, the moon stopped turning of its own axis and became waterless and thereby a dead universal body. Interference with the earth and moon in their courses caused vast floods over the earth, including colossal tidal waves, and much of the earth's surface which was above water disappeared under pressure of flood waters. The advent of 6 ether was like nuclear fallout, and it pervaded the atmosphere, waters, and vegetation which flesh and blood beings had to breathe, drink, and eat, and by these means the secondary creator Leviathan, the zodiac, 6 ether, was able to modify and alter original creation, that is, original growth. The moon mist, another appellation for 6 ether, cause things to grow bigger in size and lighter in complexion. 6. Ether, of course, is the forces of the dead, the negative forces of nature. Existing ghost gases are the perfection of the negative forces of nature. During the cycle of the living, the positive forces of nature, the living, 9 ether gases, will proclaim that they created the universe, and during the cycle of the dead, 6 ether gases and ghost, the dead will proclaim that they created the universe. But how we can determine without a doubt who really did it is by asking ourselves this question: who had to be first, the living or the dead? Of course, the answer is the living, because there must be life before there can be death. Therefore, the universes had to be created, grown, by the living, not the dead. The creation by the dead is the changes in original creation which evolution caused. In concluding this topic, it is correct to state that the origin of the universe in 9 ether, the combination of all existing chemicals and gases, the universal mind, the universal grower. Even the most inexperienced mundane scientist knows that the Son of Nature is the visible physical creator when they study universe cosmology and quantum physics. We Ethiopians didn't come from anywhere per se, the sun grew us from its original 9 ether emanations. 9 is the origin of the Ethiopian race, and 9 is the sons of the universes, including the sun of our solar system. The only way one can tap the living mind of nature is with 9 reason or sound right reasoning, whose scientific name is Nupu. We seed people were here already, as 9 ether spirits incarnate, when Leviathan fell 17,250,000 years ago as water spirit forces called Noah, Noak, in their arc or arch of time called evolution, the scientific death cycle of the universe ruled by the spirit dead. We watched them fall from heaven by descending reason and into grace, mercy and forgiveness called evolution. We bore witness to them create mankind races from certain species of tailless monkeys, apes. We watched them create spiritual control systems called pantheism and religion from our living ethereal sciences. Thus, we were called the Watchers, Righteous Ones, Guardians or the Igigi, those who bear witness from above. In their pantheistic stories, they later called us the devil from hell, the places of the hottest sun forces, in religion. Listen to reason, not spookism. Noah was the male and female spirit forces that were the beginning of the evolutionary cycle, the cycle of growth and change. The male and female spirit forces called Noah were the beginning of mankind, because they caused certain types of tailless monkeys to evolve into man. This monkey evolution is acknowledged by scientists and anthropologists. That is, they found irrefutable evidence of the monkey evolution. The evolution of monkey to man started soon after the flood. Evolution was a kind of second creation, because it caused living beings to grow bigger and there were some changes in form and complexion. The people on earth before the flood were not called man, for they were the original personification of the original creative forces. The people who existed before the flood were called Ptah, but are now called the African pygmy. Ptah is rightly pronounced tar. The African pygmies are woolly-haired dwarfs who live in equatorial Africa. Ptah is the fathers and mothers of all creation, for they are the personification of the powers of the true stars of whom the sun is one. The true stars of the elements are the creative forces that emanate creative power. The religion of Noah and his 3 sons was pantheism. The 3 sons of Noah was the spirit evolution forces, were Ham, the Phoenicians, Shem, the Hindus, and Japheth, the Mongolians. By the name Mongolian is meant people like the Chinese and Japanese. The Phoenicians, Ham, the Hindus, Shem, and the Mongolian, Japheth, are the fathers and mothers of all mankind. Mankind is all peoples with straight hair by nature. The Ethiopian, the woolly-haired people, evolved from the African pygmy, the dwarf Ethiopian, after the Great Flood. Therefore, the biggest Ethiopian is actually evolutionary Ptah. The Ethiopian has always had woolly hair from original creation. The biggest Ethiopian started evolving from small Ethiopian, the pygmy, the same time that man started evolving from monkey. The time for mercy is over, the time for forgiveness is ended, the time for grace periods are full, the time for religion is long overdue to elapse, the time for justice, Ma, or Libra, liberation, is now. Likewise, the time for the dying 6 ether sons of evolution is over. Re is still the ever-living sun that they try to put to death, yet he always rises in the early part of the day at point 6 in the east as autumn Re. The prophecy has already been predicted, visualized, realized, and actualized, factualized, in his name. The sun grew everything, including gods and goddesses, both physical and spirits. The primary, original, 9 ethereal, creation, secondary, 6 ethereal, creation, and tertiary, ghostational, creations are fixed by absolute nature in accordance to its seasons and cycles. These creators or growers of absolute nature in their seasons are all emanations from the sons of nature, and universe orbs, who are all appointed by absolute nature, the one supreme being, to grow itself into universe order. Thus, you will find various names of the sun in various cultures, our god-sun, sun gods, spirit forces of the sun, and those persons, places, and things grown by them, plants, animals, Ethiopians, mankind, etc. Those names of the sun include, but are not limited to, Sol, Sol, Anu, and Marjuk, Utu, Apsu, Afsu, Shamush, Shamsu, Helios, Ptah, Re, Ra, Atum Re, Atun Re, Amun Re, Anan Re, etc. All attributed to the visible physical sun of nature over time, yet representing the sun and its emanations in different phases in space, matter, and time. The only people who could survive in the Earth's original dense and hot atmosphere just after the fiery creation were those who had sun heat genes within so strong that they would kink the hair, and those people were our ancestors, the African pygmies. Black skin is sun skin and woolly hair is sun hair. The sun is 9 and 9 is the ball which may conveniently be drawn as the circle. In ancient times, the African pygmy was called Ptah and worshipped as the personification of the original creator. The pygmies are from the sun and we are from the pygmies, and this means we bigger Ethiopians are the sun, too. We are evolutionary Ptah. Mother Earth gave birth to our ancestors, the African pygmies, from the source of the Nile on the equator in Africa. The eggs of Mother Earth and the source of the Nile River was impregnated by 9 ether rays from Father Sun, the 9 power. Like the sun, woolly hair symbolizes potency, life, and originality. The Ethiopian is the only one of the races who grows his and her crown by nature. Woolly hair stands up like a crown, and this makes the Ethiopian the natural king and queen of the universes by nature. Ptah was indeed the Tai, Takandoid, races or pygmy gods and goddesses of original creation, originary cycle, who were worshipped as the personification of the original creator who we know as Nupu, also known as Ptah Nun, according to the revolutionary cycle's philosophy science known. Nupu, which literally means 9 power, 9 reason, and sound right reason, among other things, is the scientific name of the 9 ether powers and forces.